On a brisk spring morning in Manhattan, Maddie Parker, a 72-year-old black woman, entered one of NYC's newly opened, exclusive cafes, seeking a bit of warmth. Her quest for a simple respite turned into a humiliating public ordeal when the cafe owner met her with a venomous stare and cutting remarks, making her the center of an unwelcome spectacle amidst a sea of indifferent onlookers. However, unbeknownst to all, a person of significant influence was watching the entire episode unfold. The consequences of this encounter would soon rock the establishment's foundations, capturing global attention and altering Maddie's life forever. The cold, crisp air bit into Maddie Parker's cheeks as she navigated the bustling sidewalks of New York City. At 72, Maddie had experienced many spring mornings here, but today felt unusually chilly. Overcast skies loomed threateningly, promising rain, while a steady breeze swirled pollen through the air. Clutching her light jacket tightly around her slim frame, she felt its scant protection against the nip in the air. Even her old turtleneck sweater did little to shield her from the cold breeze that infiltrated her clothing, aggravating her arthritis with each step on the uneven pavement. Glancing at her watch, 12:45 p.m., she was reminded of her rigorous medication schedule, a routine deeply embedded in her daily life. As she turned a corner, Maddie's eyes caught a new cafe housed on the ground floor of a sleek, glass-fronted office tower. Decorated with elaborate floral arrangements and adorned with ribbons and banners celebrating its grand opening, the cafe stood out against the city's drab palette. The pollen irritating her eyes and throat, Maddie felt a strong pull towards the warm refuge inside. Checking her watch again, 12:50 p.m., she decided there was just enough time before her next medication at 1 p.m. to grab a soothing cup of hot water. Nodding to herself, she pushed open the cafe's heavy glass door and stepped inside. The cafe's interior was a testament to modern minimalism, featuring clean lines, polished surfaces, and subdued earth tones. The aroma of fresh coffee and pastries filled the air, mingled with the soft strains of jazz music from hidden speakers. Scanning the room, Maddie noted the clientele, mostly professionals in sharp suits, deeply engrossed in their laptops or huddled in quiet business discussions. Finding a cozy booth at the back, she settled in, relieved to take a break from the chill. As Maddie shrugged off her jacket, her mind automatically ticked through her health considerations due to Addison's disease, strict medication timing, hydration, and dietary precautions. When a cheerful waitress approached to take her order, Maddie asked for hot water and inquired about the fruit tarts. Opting for a mixed berry tart, she requested an extra warm towel for comfort, a simple plea that would soon escalate unexpectedly. Suddenly, the cafe's tranquil atmosphere shattered when Maddie found herself confronted by a tall, lean man with an openly hostile demeanor, claiming to be James Whitaker, the manager and owner. His contemptuous tone and demeaning words, questioning her presence and refusing her simple requests under the guise of maintaining a certain clientele, left Maddie stunned. Despite her calm demeanor and attempts to address the situation respectfully, Whitaker's prejudice was palpable as he disparagingly dismissed her and her medical needs. As the situation intensified, the young waitress reappeared with Maddie's order, only to have Whitaker intercept the tray in a calculated move, escalating the confrontation. Maddie, maintaining her dignity amidst the blatant hostility, found herself at a pivotal moment, her resolve tested in the face of deep-seated prejudice and cruelty. What happened next, witnessed by an influential bystander, would not only challenge the cafe's discriminatory practices, but also spark a movement that resonated far beyond the confines of that spring morning in Manhattan. But before she could fully articulate her request, Whitaker sharply turned, flicking his wrists dismissively. The contents of the tray were sent flying. The cup of hot water arced through the air, splashing in a scalding wave, while the plate with the berry tart spun out like a discus. Maddie barely managed to raise her hands in a futile attempt to shield herself. The hot water struck her first, splashing across her arms and face, instantly blooming into painful, angry red splotches. The tart followed, smearing across her pink sweater, leaving a trail of purple-red filling. A shocked and pained cry escaped Maddie's lips. The café fell into an eerie silence, all eyes fixed on the unfolding scene in the corner booth. Whitaker's face twisted into a mockery of concern as he exclaimed, "Oh my, how clumsy of me!" His voice dripped with feigned sincerity. "I'm terribly sorry, ma'am. Your appearance must have distracted me." Maddie's arms throbbed, the pain intensifying by the second. "Please," she gasped, "I need a medical kit, some ice at least." Whitaker's feigned concern quickly reverted to a sneer, his voice low but clear to Maddie. "A medical kit for a little spill? Don't be so dramatic, old woman. If you need to clean up, use the restroom." The young waitress stood frozen, her eyes wide with shock. "Mr. Whitaker, shouldn't we help her?" Whitaker snapped back. "Get back to work. And bring a mop. Our valued customers shouldn't have to witness this mess." Shaking, Maddie reached for her purse, desperate to salvage any remnants of normalcy. As she did, she noticed her pill bottle had been partially drenched, the expensive medication inside likely ruined. Holding back tears of pain and humiliation, she clutched the damaged bottle and struggled to her feet. The weight of the incident pressed down on her, making each step towards the restroom feel monumental. Behind the closed bathroom door, Maddie leaned against it, her breath shaky. The encounter had been brief, but felt like an eternity. She inspected the angry red marks on her arms and cheeks, and her once neat sweater now stained with water and berry filling. But it was the sight of the ruined pill bottle, her lifeline, that truly sank her heart. Maddie straightened up, her shoulders squared despite the pain. She had faced discrimination and hardship before, and would face this too with all the dignity and strength she could muster. But first, she needed to assess the damage and plan her next steps. She glanced at her watch, 1:20 p.m., dangerously past her critical medication time, calmly whispering to herself, "Stay calm, Maddie. You've gotten through worse. Just think it through." She inspected the pill bottle. Most of the pills had disintegrated into a pasty mess. Maddie's mind raced with the cost of replacing the medication, not just over-the-counter pills but specialized, expensive ones crucial to her survival. Another wave of dizziness struck her harder this time. Maddie knew the symptoms all too well. Without her medication, her body was beginning to react. She frantically searched the pill bottle for any salvageable tablets. Finding one slightly damp but intact, she brought it to her lips, trying to swallow it dry but started coughing and choking. Desperate, Maddie bent over the sink, turned on the tap, and cupped water into her mouth to wash down the pill. As she straightened up, tears welled in her eyes at the indignity of it all. Taking a deep breath, she composed herself, smoothed her hair, straightened her sweater, and prepared to face the hostile environment outside once more. Stepping back into the café, the blast of air conditioning hit her like a physical blow. Shivering, she wrapped her arms around herself as she moved to an empty booth in the far corner, trying to escape the direct blast of the AC, resolved yet cautious. Maddie contemplated her next move. Despite the worsening weather outside and her precarious medical state, she knew leaving now could be just as dangerous as staying. But an older server with a kind expression approached cautiously, aware of the earlier incident. "Excuse me," Maddie called out softly, her voice quivering slightly. The waitress approached, her expression wary yet gentle. "Yes, ma'am," she inquired, her tone cautious but warm. Maddie managed a small smile, trying to appear calm despite the storm inside. "I hate to trouble you, but could we possibly adjust the air conditioning? It's directly on me, and my clothes are still damp." "I'm quite chilled," she explained. The waitress's expression softened a touch. "I'll see what I can do about the air vent, ma'am. Would you like some hot water to warm up?" she offered. Relief washed over Maddie. "That would be wonderful, thank you," she replied gratefully. As the waitress turned to leave, James Whitaker's familiar, unwelcome voice sliced through the calm. "Is there a problem here?" he demanded, his face a mask of barely contained fury as he approached. The waitress stepped back, her body tense. "No problem at all," Maddie responded, her voice steady despite her nerves. "I was merely asking for the air conditioning to be adjusted slightly." Whitaker's eyes narrowed. "The temperature here is set to ensure the comfort of our paying customers. If you're cold, perhaps that's a sign you should move along," he snapped. A flicker of anger ignited within Maddie. She had tried to accommodate to avoid conflict, but this was too much. "Mr. Whitaker," she began, her voice firm, "I am a paying customer, just like everyone else here. I have every right to be comfortable." Whitaker's face turned a shade of red, and he leaned closer, his whisper menacing. "Listen here, you old bat, I own this place. I decide who's welcome and who isn't, and let me make this crystal clear. You are not welcome. Your money, who knows where it comes from, might as well be bloody." As he loomed over her, his aggressive posture unmistakable, Maddie found herself recoiling, her earlier bravery wavering under his overt hostility. The cafe's other patrons watched, their faces a mixture of confusion and discomfort. The waitress hovered nearby, clearly torn on whether to intervene. Before Maddie could respond, Whitaker escalated the situation further. "You two," he barked, gesturing to a pair of burly servers, "escort this woman out immediately." As whispers and uneasy murmurs spread through the café, Whitaker added, with feigned disgust, "She just wet herself, everyone." His lie hung in the air, cruel and deliberate, as he shot Maddie a cold, triumphant look. The servers, uneasy but compliant, approached Maddie's booth. "Please, ma'am," one said softly, "don't make this harder than it needs to be." "This isn't right," Maddie protested, her voice shaking. "I've done nothing wrong." But her pleas were ignored. With a nod from Whitaker, the servers reached for Maddie's arms. As they pulled her up, Maddie's foot caught on the table leg. Time seemed to stretch as she lost her balance, her arms flailing for something to grab. With a cry of alarm, she fell forward, hitting the café floor hard. The impact knocked the breath from her as she lay there, her purse contents scattered, including the spilled pills from her ruined medication. A hushed silence fell over the café. Patrons stared, shocked, at the sight of the elderly woman on the floor, her dignity stripped away. The servers stood frozen, horrified by the outcome. Even Whitaker appeared taken aback, though he quickly masked it with disdain. "Well, don't just stand there," he snapped. "Get her out of here." But before they could move, a new voice broke through the tense atmosphere. "That's quite enough," came the firm declaration. All heads turned as Johnny Depp, recognized by millions, strode from the back of the café, his presence altering the room's dynamics. He approached and knelt beside Maddie, offering his hand with a gentle gaze that contrasted starkly with Whitaker's hostility. "Are you all right, ma'am?" he asked, his voice kind and concerned. Maddie nodded, her voice lost in her gratitude. With Depp's help, she rose, her body aching from the fall. Whitaker, momentarily off balance by the celebrity's appearance, tried to regain control. "Mr. Depp," he said, feigning politeness, "you've stumbled into an unfortunate situation. This woman was just leaving." Depp faced Whitaker, his expression hardening. "The only unfortunate thing I see is your treatment of this lady. Can you explain why you felt it necessary to physically remove an elderly woman from your establishment?" Flustered, Whitaker blustered about his rights as a café owner, but Depp cut him off. "Refusing service is one thing, but assault and discrimination are quite another. The law does not look kindly on such actions." Turning back to Maddie, Depp said softly, "Come on, let's get you out of here and find something warm for you." Guiding her to the exit, he paused to deliver a final warning to Whitaker, his voice resonating through the quiet café, You might want to reconsider how you run this place. I suspect you'll be facing some tough questions soon." With that, Johnny Depp and Maddie left the café, stepping into the cool, misty New York afternoon, leaving behind a stunned audience and a seething James Whitaker. "But if you're wondering why it touched me so deeply, that goes back quite a bit," Depp began, shifting in his seat to face Maddie more directly. "My mother, Betty Sue Palmer, was a waitress for most of her life. Growing up, we didn't have much, and I saw the prejudice and challenges she faced because of her job and our financial status," he said, his voice warming as he spoke of his mother. "She was the strongest person I've ever known. She kept her dignity no matter how tough things got, but I saw the pain it caused her when people treated her as less than." Maddie nodded, her expression one of understanding. "It leaves scars that don't show on the outside," she murmured softly. "Exactly," Depp agreed. "And you know, in my profession, I've been on both sides of that coin. I've felt the adoration that comes with fame, but I've also experienced the harsh judgment and misunderstandings that it can bring. It's given me a deep appreciation for what people who face daily prejudice go through." He leaned back, his gaze drifting for a moment. "A lot of the roles I choose are characters who are overlooked or misunderstood. I guess it's my way of giving a voice to those who might otherwise go unheard." Maddie listened, seeing the actor in a new light as he spoke. She reached into her purse, her fingers wrapping around the damp pill bottle. Hesitating briefly, she pulled it out. "Mr. Depp," she began, her voice catching, "this is what started all the trouble back in the café." She held out the bottle, its label smeared and peeling. "I have Addison's disease. These pills aren't just medication. They're my lifeline." Depp's expression grew serious as he took the bottle, examining it. "I've heard of Addison's, but I don't know much about it. Can you explain more?" Maddie nodded, launching into a detailed explanation. "It's a condition where my body doesn't produce certain essential hormones. I have to take medication to replace them, and timing is crucial. Missing a dose can lead to a crisis, which can be life-threatening." She sighed, looking at the ruined pills. "And they're expensive. When that man spilled water on me, he did more than ruin my clothes. He endangered my health and wasted resources I carefully budget each month." Depp listened with furrowed brows, clearly concerned. Without hesitation, he reached into his jacket and pulled out a checkbook. "Miss Parker," he said, using her name formally for the first time, "I'd like to help, if you'll let me." As Depp wrote out a check, Maddie watched, a complex mix of emotions crossing her face. When he handed her the check, her eyes widened at the amount. "Mr. Depp, this is too much. I couldn't possibly." Depp smiled gently, raising a hand to stop her. "Please, I insist. Use what you need for your medication, and if there's anything left, consider it a buffer for future expenses, or maybe a treat for yourself. After what you've been through today, you deserve it." Tears welled in Maddie's eyes as she accepted the check, her hands trembling. "Thank you," she whispered. "I don't know what to say." Depp's voice softened, tinged with playful charm. "Now then, my dear, where shall I whisk you away to? To your doctor, to sort out your medication? Or perhaps straight home to your apartment?" Maddie gave a warm smile, gratitude evident in her tone. "Home to my apartment would be nice." Johnny nodded, a slight tilt of his head conveying both care and theatrical flourish. "Home it is, then. Your chariot awaits, madam." As the sleek black car pulled up to her weathered apartment building, Maddie looked out, a mix of relief and embarrassment washing over her. "This is me," she said softly, hand on the door handle. Depp looked at the building, his eyes capturing the essence of its aging facade. "You know, there's a lot of character in old buildings like this. They've got stories to tell." Maddie chuckled, touched by his attempt to make her feel at ease. Oh, if these walls could talk, they'd have quite a few tales. As they prepared to exit the car, movement at the building's entrance caught their eye, a lanky teenager pacing and checking his phone. "Oh my," Maddie said, realizing it was her grandson Michael, who was supposed to help with groceries but had evidently been locked out. Depp grinned as they watched Michael's mounting frustration. "Looks like someone's not too happy about being locked out." As they stepped out, Michael's annoyance turned to astonishment as he recognized the Hollywood star accompanying his grandmother. "Gran, is that? Are you with Johnny Depp?" Depp waved, causing Michael's jaw to drop further. Maddie laughed at her grandson's stunned reaction. "Hello, Michael. I'm sorry I'm late. It's been quite an afternoon." As they approached, Michael's eyes flicked between his grandmother and Depp, his mind racing. "Gran, what happened? Are you okay? How did you—" Maddie patted his arm reassuringly. "It's a long story, dear. Why don't we go inside, and I'll explain everything." As they entered the building, Maddie felt the weight of the check secure in her purse, a secret she intended to keep for the time being. Some acts of kindness, she knew, were best kept close to the heart.